This is a question we get from parents all the time, and it is regarding scholarship recommendation letters. Oftentimes, we receive questions about how to make sure that they are well written, how to make them strong. Do we have to request them over and over again? In today's video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about scholarship recommendation letters because these can be a huge part of whether or not your student will receive that money for college. Hey there, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System, where we redefine paying for college and help families build strong financial futures where they hopefully avoid that student loan debt. And primarily, our main strategy is securing scholarships. In fact, I received over six figures in scholarships, and we've helped families surpass $10.5 million in scholarships. So we have seen so many applications over the years, and we have also seen the scholarship recommendation letter requirement time and time again. Now, don't forget to hit subscribe because every single week we release a new strategy on paying for college, including those on scholarships and beyond. So make sure you hit subscribe. So inside our course, the Scholarship System, we have very specific tips on how to approach this. So I'm going to steal a few of those and share them with you today. Let's dive in. So what is a letter of recommendation? So this is a common requirement of legitimate scholarships. We will talk about that in just a moment, where they are asking for another person that knows your student to write a letter of recommendation where they share your student's strengths, their experience with your student, and the likelihood that they'll pretty much use this money in a good way to pursue a career and beyond. So this is a very helpful piece of paper if it's done correctly. It can provide committees with insight on your students' character, on their qualities, on their accomplishments, on their attitude, all these different aspects that can really signal whether or not they're going to succeed. Now, this is usually written by someone who knows your child well. Oftentimes, students will just ask their advisor at their school or their guidance counselor. But if they don't really know your student, it's not going to be nearly as powerful as someone who does know your student. So that's one of the first things you want to focus on is who will write this recommendation letter. So let's get into that in a little more detail. So who should write a recommendation letter? This can be teachers, volunteer leaders, employers, mentors. It can be a guidance counselor if they know your student well. So someone that spends a lot of time with your student, someone that has seen the challenges they've faced, how they chose to overcome those. If the more that they know your student, the better they can write this letter. We also often need multiple. And in that situation, we want to try to get a diverse list of recommenders. For example, if your student is on the football team, let's not have coach 1, 2, and 3 write all 3 letters because they'll all reference football. They'll all have a similar perspective of your student. Instead, what we want to do is get a diverse list of recommenders. So maybe one is a football coach, the other could be a professor or teacher, and then maybe another could be at their job outside of school. So then it is 3 really diverse experiences and 3 really diverse perceptions of your child. Now, one thing here is sometimes I get the question of, well, I'm their parent, can I write one? The answer is no, because of course there's going to be a bias. You are their parent. You see them in the best light, which I'm sure is accurate, but it's just not going to hold a lot of strength when it comes to competing against other students when they get recommendation letters from outside people. So friends and family, we really don't want them to be the ones writing this. Now, how can we approach asking for a recommendation letter? Let's get into that. So first, let's get to the point. So don't be around the bush. Have your student directly approach the person and ask them, say they would be honored if they'd write a recommendation letter for them. They feel like they know them well and have a good perspective. They can provide things, which I'll share in just a moment, to make it easier on them. But ultimately, we want a direct ask, a direct request requesting that recommendation letter from someone. Let them know, have your student let them know what they need the recommendation letter for. Is it for a scholarship? Is it for admissions? Why do we need this? What's the importance of this letter that they are writing? Now, if you are wondering where do we find these scholarships that require recommendation letters, it sounds like maybe they are more competitive or harder to apply to than the ones that you've been seeing. If that sounds familiar, no matter what, you want to sign up for our free training where I cover the 6 steps to securing scholarships. I will talk about where to find legitimate scholarships with less competition, but oftentimes they do require these recommendation letters. So make sure that you and your student attend that free training. You can go to the link in the description or somewhere here on the screen. It should be the scholarshipsystem.com/free training. All right, so make sure you take advantage of that. Okay, the other thing with asking for recommendation letters is not just to have a direct ask, but to make sure to ask sooner rather than later. We recommend giving recommenders at least 2 weeks notice. And some people who are often writing these letters, they might tell your student they want even more notice. So giving them time will, first off, increase the chance of them saying yes. But secondly, it will give them time to really marinate on that. What are they saying? What are they going to talk about? So the more time, the better. Now, speaking of time, if you're curious what time of year this is often an activity that students are going through, we're going to link to my video on scholarship deadlines where you can learn all about common times of the year when people do often apply to scholarships. So we'll link to that YouTube video in the description or somewhere on the screen as well. Now, I have 2 more main points to make around how to ask for this. So the last one that I want to focus on with how to ask is if your student can, have them ask in person. Asking in person is always going to be the best approach. It's personal. They took the time out of their day to go to that person. And also it's just going to be harder to say no when they're talking to your student in person. So in person is going to be the first way that we want to ask. The second way could be by sending off an email, but we want to make sure it's a very respectful email. It's well thought out, well written. We want to represent ourselves well when asking this person to recommend us. So if it does have to be an email or it could be even a phone call, then that's fine. But if we can do it, we want to do it in person. Okay, I have 2 more tips when it comes to recommendation letters. And this one is one of our biggest suggestions. In fact, we cover this in the Scholarship System online course in depth, and that is to include information for your recommender. So your student should include a resume, a list of activities, a list of accomplishments, some bullet points, whatever information they can give to the recommender. That will make this letter so much more competitive. So the more information this person has, the more they can sell your student. It is not against the rules to provide them with information. They are still the ones writing the letter. That doesn't mean that your student can't give them some ammo. Okay, so we really recommend including any kind of details that they think would be helpful, including a resume if your student has one of those. For those of you that are in the scholarship system, we have a resume template inside our Money Multiplier worksheet, so you'll find that under bonuses. Okay, the final tip when it comes to recommendation letters is to send a thank you letter. More often than not, your student is going to have to ask this person for multiple copies, multiple recommendation letters. Maybe they want them to tweak the name in it or the committee name in it or the university name in it. It's best that we end this on a good note. So have your students send them an email, a nice personal email saying, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Whatever they need to do, or even better, a handwritten thank you would be the best. I really recommend to our students just getting a box of thank you cards, taking 2 seconds out of their day to handwrite a card and giving it to their person. No matter what, a thank you can go a really far way. And in fact, I, as a student, was applying for scholarships all the way through college, and I would go back to some of my teachers in high school during my freshman and maybe sophomore year for recommendation letters again. So that rapport I was building with them really did go a long way. So make sure that your student is thanking them professionally, well written, not just a text, hey, thanks. we want to put some effort here. All right, so that said, if your student is applying for scholarships, more than likely they will need a recommendation letter at some point. So this is a lot of stuff around recommendation letters, but hopefully it will help your student approach the process more professionally, but also it will increase their chances of getting a competitive letter rather than just some generic letter that anyone could really write. This letter really can sell a student. It really can be just that cherry on top that tips it in their favor and pushes them above the other competition. So we want to put the effort behind getting a strong and competitive recommendation letter. Now, again, if you found this helpful and you want to find more scholarships that require these, then make sure that you and your student attend our free training, the 6 steps to securing scholarships quickly. We'll link to it in the description below. And also make sure you hit subscribe, because every week we release a new strategy on how to pay for college without debt. All right, again, this is Jocelyn with the Scholarship System. I'll see you in next week's video.